Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by today. I hope you will be a part of the conversation and leave a comment. Join us down there and let me know what you think about the conversation we have today. Please, I also encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. It's always dating advice, almost always dating advice. You know, I'm a matchmaker and a dating coach, and most of the time we're just sharing things that have come up with clients over the last couple weeks. Take a little time to sort through it and make it interesting if I can, and share some examples with you of challenges that clients are dealing with, coaching clients or matchmaking clients. A lot of these things come up, and I think to myself, well, golly. Do I think golly? I don't know. I think I have to share it with you guys. So that's when I get in front of the camera here and film a video so that we can talk about this. And it's not a great conversation if you're not sharing a little bit of what you're thinking down in the comment section. So I encourage you to do that. 3 things to never talk about on a first date, or maybe 7. I don't know. Let's see where this goes. I had a few that I wanted to share. And we'll just keep going till none of them are really making sense anymore. That's my plan. It's not a great plan, but it's all I've got right now. Let's get to it. A quick reminder, I'm an expert, but I'm not you. You do whatever feels best to you. Just because I say don't talk about it doesn't mean that suddenly that conversation comes up and you need to, throw on the brakes and go changing subject, right? Or using my trick. Something you just said reminded me about this time, and then launching into one of your very favorite stories. That's a trip. That's a video. I'll link to it here. So you just got to do you. We're all different, but these sort of make sense. Most of them are ones I recommend to clients on the regular. And number 1 would be your ex. Obviously, we do not want to have a third wheel on this date. You don't want to hear about this other person's ex on a first date. And I think maybe we should remind ourselves right here at the beginning of what the purpose of a first date is. The purpose of a first date is to go spend some time with this person and see if you enjoy their company, if you enjoy your own company when you're with this person, and if you get a feeling that you're communicating in the same way, you enjoy the way they think, you share some of the same opinions, you enjoy their stories. It's not an interview. You don't need to hear their whole life story. You don't need to share yours. So if they're talking about their ex in a very positive way or a very negative way, trash talking, bad, bad, bad. That's a red flag right there. But we don't talk about our exes on a first date. And if somebody asks you about your ex, what do you have ready to go? Your elevator pitch. You know what? He's a great guy. He's a great dad. But we were just better as friends. So I really wish him the best. He's super happy. He's got somebody new and we get along great now. That's your elevator pitch. That's my elevator pitch for talking about my ex. He's amazing. He's a great dad. I love him. I wish him all the best. He's met somebody new and he'll always be one of my friends and in my life. But we're just better not as a couple. Here you go. It's just that simple. So no in-depth conversations talking about your ex on a first date. That's number 1. Number 2 should seem obvious, but not always, I guess, sexual experience. Some people want to push your buttons or test your boundaries and want to bring up the subject of sex or what you like or your number or anything sexual that I truly just don't believe is indicative of somebody who's serious about getting to know you. That may be somebody who's serious about sleeping with you, and not that you're not going to eventually share these things with the person. Well, maybe not your number, but your preferences and what you like, those will all be shared in due time when they're necessary for somebody else to know. I guess those are on a need to know basis, and that could actually be your answer. You know what? The answers to these questions are on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know. And if I told you, I'd have to kill you. Money. Number 3 is money. It's rude. It's just rude. I'm not a person who is like afraid to talk about money. I don't think it's like super private. I'll bring up what I spent on things and what I made on this and, what I sold this for and how much I made this year or when I have a great week financially. I talk about that stuff, but I'm certainly not going to talk about it on a date with somebody I don't know. I share these things with my friends because they like to, and I like to. We like to celebrate each other's, successes and also make each other feel better if something's not going well, right? So that's my support system. That's not who this new person is to you, your cheerleader or your support system. So you don't want to know what they make. You can kind of guesstimate by if you know what they do for a job, and there are clues to whether somebody is perhaps solvent or not, or they're tricking you, but you will find out in good time, and it's just not something we're going to talk about on a first date. Number 4 would be family drama. We all have it. Stuff happens, stuff comes up. Could have been a really weird day, could have something strange or sad or unfortunate or dramatic going on this week. But this is not the place to air our family's dirty laundry on a first date with somebody we don't know. And I've had this go awry for people. They just came from a situation, or it's just something heavy on their mind, and they share it with a very genuine, caring person that they've met, and they really feel comfortable, and it's easy to speak to this person. And they overshare on a first date. And then in my feedback conversations, these are my matchmaking clients, the feedback conversation afterwards, the other person said, it was just a lot, and it was a lot too soon. And I went back to my client and I said, if you'd saved that till a little bit later, right after this person had an opportunity to know you better and know more about your life in larger terms, and to develop some feelings for you on all these great things, it probably would have landed differently. But a first date is no place to discuss family drama. It could be a turnoff. It could scare somebody off. Lots of ways that can go wrong. So better to save those conversations until you know this person better. I know there are some people here who disagree with me because it's come up before, but I think that medical issues are not first date fodder. I think maybe if it's something super serious, you should share it even prior to the first date if it's something that needs to be shared. But during a first date, I don't think anybody wants to hear about your Lipitor prescription and your high blood pressure, or those types of things, your back pain, or what's going on at the podiatrist next week, your IT band, or your rotator cuff surgery that you just had or it's coming up next month. These are just things that we all have to contend with as we get older. And I think your medical history, your medical challenges, your medication, all of that stuff, unless it's something that somebody asks you about sexually transmitted diseases and you are, planning to have sex with this person, they may want to know that part of your medical history, but everything else should be off the table until you know them better. Also, nobody wants to hear you bitching and moaning about what aches and pains and weird stuff you have to deal with. We all have something. Next up, what should you not talk about on a first date? Yourself. Well, at least not in a way that is not too braggedy. I'll just make up my own version. Don't want to be too braggedy, but most importantly, you don't want to be negative. No trash talking your own self on a first date. If you make a mistake or you have a human error, certainly you can make fun of yourself in that way, but don't be making excuses for things that you aren't loving about yourself today, or talking yourself down, or trying to elicit sympathy for something, or in any way saying anything negative or making excuses for yourself. You come into that room as your best self, and don't ever feel that you need to make excuses. As I just said, we all have something that we bring with us that we'd probably rather not have, but we don't need to talk about it on a first date. This stuff will come up as this person gets to know you, and a lot of these things just land differently once somebody knows you well enough to have developed feelings to have sympathy or understanding for you. And if it's just something that you're just not feeling confident about, nobody wants to hear about that. Nobody wants to hear about your 10 COVID pounds or your 20 COVID pounds, or the fact that you got lost on the way here because you have a crappy sense of direction. Just don't put yourself down in any way. It's not necessary, it's not cute, and it's not turning anybody on. This one doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. And it's that you figure out that you have common friends or acquaintances. Don't talk about these other people too much. You can see where this could totally go wrong, right? You find out that your next door neighbor from when growing up went to school with him and is his best friend. And the short stories you're going to tell are less than flattering. Or maybe you didn't even know that he's still friends with this guy now. You knew this person and they cheated at something, or they lied about something negative about the person, and then you find out that he's married to her sister or something like that. So be very cautious when you find out that you have common acquaintances or friends, because you don't know the relationships there, and that could just end up being awkward. Number 8. Look how far we've gotten. Wow, I just keep coming up with this stuff. The fact that you Googled them. Don't tell. That's your superpower. Google is dating superpower. Whatever you find out, keep it to yourself. Oh, I had a lady message me yesterday and say that a guy asked her out, and then she did Google him and found his Facebook, and he's married. And then when she went to go back and look, he'd hid his Facebook, so she couldn't find it anymore to take pictures and throw them at him. Yeah, I would do your due diligence. It's a tool we have. We use the internet to look up, the best price on socks and ideas for Christmas presents. Why wouldn't you look up the person you're meeting for a date lives where they say they do, or doesn't have pictures of his wife on vacation with him last week? Or I've had clients who, if you Googled them, you would be very misled by that first page on the internet of things that happened in their past. But I don't think you have to bring it up. It's something you could talk about later. But just in case it's something really bad or scary, or a person you wouldn't want to meet, protect yourself. Use the internet the way you would for anything else. But do not tell the person that you Googled them, or use any of that information as a platform to start a conversation about something. That's happened. That can be awkward. In this political climate, I would want to know somebody's political leanings, where they fall on the spectrum between liberal and conservative. I ask that question of everybody I talk to all week long, every day, in matchmaking clients, because I think it speaks to our values, and my job is to align people's values. So it's one of those things, again, like the health issue, where I think you may want to know this before you even set up a first date, unless you're just really open-minded and feel you can get along with anybody, even if they have very extreme differences or live in a different reality than you do. Then that's fine. Then this is not for you. But for people who feel that they want to sort of have the same general belief system and or values, I think you might want to ask this question before driving across town, as I say, and using up some of your tube of your favorite lipstick and the spritz of your favorite cologne. I think that conversation should be during your FaceTime, Zoom video call or telephone call that you've had prior to the actual meet-in-person date. Don't dive deeper into politics on a first date. Politics and religion on a first date as conversation is not a good idea. Knowing those things ahead of time because they're priorities for you is perfectly fine. But a deeper conversation delving into your specific thoughts and your preferences and your beliefs, not great on a first date. It doesn't usually bode well. So have that conversation earlier. And finally, my last one, I don't know what number, I think it's 10, I think we might have made it to 10, I don't know, is dating history, dating horror stories. It's really easy to commiserate about bad dates that you've had. I went out once with a guy who was writing a book. He had been going on, I don't even know, was it a date a week? He had like 1 million dates in a year, and he was going to write a book about all of them. And he had some hysterically funny stories, but that did not make me any attracted to him at all, actually. It was funny, but he was like the comedian on the date, right? I didn't feel like we were making a connection because he was sharing these like funny, crazy stories about other women. So don't talk about how rough it is out there. I always say to, my primer that I send out to my clients is don't talk about relationships, dating history, me, your matchmaker, the matchmaking experience, the nightmare of online dating apps or whatever. It's very meta. The word meta, It's just very much, it's like you're on a date and you're talking about dating. That never is good. So while you may have hysterical stories of dates gone wrong, save those stories for another time and don't have that conversation on a first date. In fact, romantic history in general is probably off limits. I gotta end this. I can't talk anymore. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you found it fun, interesting, helpful. If you did, give the episode a thumbs up. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and if you hit that ring bell, then you're notified every time I upload a new episode, and you can meet me back here, which would be super cool. I appreciate you stopping by today, and I'll look forward to next time. Until then, have a good one.